amongst men and jinn against your mission. This is not a new thing. This has been going on throughout history. Let me see, we're going down here. Therefore, he allows, for the sake of his great design, the necessary freedom, both to the powers of obedience and those of disobedience. In other words, now this is related to, okay, there's united forces working against you. I have something here. Now, this commentary I'm reading, I copied this stuff back in 1990. That's what, for my notebook. I copied all of this stuff, and I underlined it way back then. So the forces, those of disobedience, piety, and sin, prophethood, and forces of evil, so that both might be allowed to perform the deeds of their own choice between good and bad, and to those of his creatures, men and jinns, who have been delegated with a limited authority and the consequent responsibility. In other words, this is leading into a lot into the situation we have right here. On this part, I have a fitna, natural, and historical. I have down the side, reread regularly. This is from years ago. Now, how does this fit in with where we're coming from? We have certain things coming against us. What we look and see, this all was natural for the prophets, the messengers, and all of those people. And if we're trying to do good, this is natural to all people who are considered good or trying to do good, do-gooders in any society. That's the things that are happening. It's all natural, right? And the people, they look, they say, why you just cruise right along? I said, well, I had a premonition, and I named myself after a personality that all the stuff we're talking about, if you're going to leave, one thing we had learned by the time we became is the characteristic and the habits of the Negro. Then, in those days of studying the Bible and Qur'an, see, in the old days, in the Nation of Islam, you studied the Bible and the Qur'an, which the Bible carried more weight. I mean, it was used more. The Bible was used in the nation. In the nation, the Bible was definitely used more. Okay. And also, that was outlined. Verses to read in the Bible, the ayahs, in the Qur'an, that was in books. Fall of America and all of that, How to eat and live. Okay, but one thing you can pick up for sure. When you ease into Islam, and see, those early years of challenging the system, you find out the nature of the human being. So by the time technically I started reading this Tafsir, I'll just regress for a minute. When I came home from Leavenworth, I'd already read some beautiful articles. And so technically, when I was in Leavenworth, I psychologically moved from the Nation of Islam part of Imam Muhammad's community. But that's in 75. In 75, it was making a transition. But I mean, the transition was from the supreme minister to the mujaddid to the president and all, it was not an organized transition. It wasn't organized. And it was built off of where the people were. So the supreme minister, that's in the early years, 75, still the supreme minister. Okay. By the time 76 rolled around, it's the Mujaddid, which is a very good name. I happened to stumble on a book, The Short History of the Revivalist Movement in Islam, by Maulana Maududi. Good God. The subject was Mujaddids. A lot of our literature comes from that. So I gave a talk at Leavenworth on Mujaddids. Of course, by that time, it was 76, I had slanted it toward the chief. But, who the heck knew what I was talking about anyway? We was still in transition, and you could make, it was a good lecture. It was really about Mujaddids and history. And of course, it was verifying that the chief was what we said Mujaddi. So it was good, Now remember, a lot of people don't know, I stood security for Imam Muhammad when he came to Oakland, and I technically liked it. I was, when I got out of the penitentiary, I helped the community. I went to the Masjid in Oakland and instead of them trying to help me become Muslim, they wanted me to go back to Big Hanky. They was all asking me to put them into something with dope, and I'm saying da 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 da, and I'm sitting in the Masjid at the office, and people coming knocking on the door, and they say, yeah, that'll be in a little while, such and such, it's just coming from the airport. I said, that don't sound like, I said, he's making it sound like it's the Balalian news. But I've been doing that type of thing, and it sounded something different to me. Then the people, I was into that, and so people was telling me, yeah, man, Minister so-and-so go over there, and he do this, he do that, and then one of the guys is a big shot there for the last, I don't know when, takes me to I meet him in a Lucky supermarket, and he has a woman with him. He said, yeah, this girl here wanted to help me get money, and if you give me, and I looked at the woman, and not that I knew her, she had more game than he did. She was what we used to call a dope fiend B, They got plenty of game. He's a young, handsome guy, and he thought of himself, yeah, she want to help me get money. And I'm looking at him as though he's in kindergarten, which he definitely was. I say, he don't know the difference between a dope fiend B, and she telling him, because she figured he could come to me and I'll put him up on something. That's what I had to go through. The point I'm making is, sometimes when you name yourself according to where you want to go, what you want to do, what the environment says. And Musa was a revolutionary. That's what he wanted to do, leave the people to freedom. He wanted to change the whole system. That's what the commentaries say. The Qur'an says it. But he knew Pharaoh and he knew the Negro. Moses was raised with Pharaoh. He's raised up in the house with him. And when you get up so-called big, you get to see it all. The higher you get, the more you see. And it don't look nothing like up there in it. At the top, that's what it looks like from the bottom looking up. Ooh, boy, it's glory land up there. It don't look like that at all. Nothing, it don't look like that. That's why I know that why people, they look the best, they got the most money, they're the prettiest people in the world, and they're committing suicide and they're unhappy. Why? Because I know what the heck it looks like up there. I already know what it looks like. And I know what people down here look at, ooh, that's really something. Okay, so Moses know what he gonna have to deal with. So when you name yourself a namesake, you know the people. You've been through revolution, you've been through all of this stuff, and you know how the people are gonna act, like you learned in Negro. When you read all the religious script, the Negro sounds like some of the other people. They actually got the same habits and characteristics. Why? Because they're all human beings. If you know you act a certain way, if you don't know it has its characteristics, all of it has, right? Their behavior patterns. People that know and believe act one way, and people that don't know and don't believe, they also have a characteristic. You can almost, we don't gamble, but you can bet on it. Anyway, let me pick up. It's about authority and responsibility. That people have a duty and people have a right. Free will allows people to make their own decisions. This is about the signs of Allah. This is Allah saying to the Prophet, peace be upon him, about the signs and everything. It's still the same pattern. So everyone is free, or everyone is free to make a choice of good deeds or of bad deeds for himself in this world. Both the good and the bad people are allowed to have the necessary means as far as it suits and fits into the divine design. But only those who make a choice of good works merit his pleasure and approval, for Allah likes it, though he does not force his servants to make a choice of either good or bad. He allows them to make use of the freedom of choice that has been granted to them in any way they like. So, there's an ayah that we always quote. It'll all come together here in a second. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ ثُمَّ رَدَدْنَاهُ أَسْفَلَ سَافِلِينَ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ فَلَهُمْ أَجْرٌ غَيْرُ مَمْنُونٍ. We have indeed created man in the best of molds. Then do we abase him to be the lowest of the low, except such as believe and do righteous deeds, for they shall have a reward unfailing. Later on, we'll talk something about signs. And what is it? What's happening if the people see all these signs over and over, and they say, oh, wow, I don't believe that. You got to send me down. You got to send me down a book, right? And if you're so bad, if I'm so bad, you can send a fire down to consume me up. That's the way they would talk. All that. So sometimes the people would want the prophet, peace be upon him, to be given a sign that would almost make the people, right, come to the truth. He himself would have signs, feeling oppressed a little bit from time to time. He would want Allah to give him a sign that would make the people believe, because he loved the people and he wanted them to get the benefit of what he got. And Allah is saying, look, there's a divine plan going on here. You keep teaching openly and clearly, and you do your job. We'll take care of all of this. Don't worry. You do that job openly and clearly. Now, this is decades ago, so we have fitna, natural and historical. That means if people have watched this community deal with literally everything in the book and more, houses, cars that won't start, this happened, that, all of it, right? And you cruise right along. Why you cruise right along? Because there's stuff right here. It ain't new. This part is back in the 90s. We had Tafsir classes when I went home in 76. We used to go to the Islamic Center. Not we, I did, because in those days, it was only Masjid over in Oakland, and it was the Islamic Center in San Francisco. So all the people from Berkeley and all that, they would come to a Tafsir class. I didn't know that's what it was, but we read the Qur'an and commentary. And I would look, I had been to the University of California library to get a lot of books on Freemasonry and all of that. So I knew how powerful the library was. And I looked at all the Arabic books the brothers had, the Arab brothers. They were followers of Sayyid Qutb. That's what they liked. They had, all their books came from the library at UC Berkeley. They were students at UC Berkeley. So I was getting introduced to the top stuff right away. And I was in there hanging with them. I mean, that was back then. Because one of the guys said something to me, and I referred him to Maulana Muhammad Ali, a statement in a footnote in Maulana Muhammad Ali, which he kept on the side on it himself. So I knew what to tell him. So he said he's not like the others. In other words, and guess what? A shipment came in of this stuff here, Maulana Maududi. It wasn't all finished. It was up to volume 5 or something like that, but it was enough. And Tafhim al-Qur'an, I went back over to the community and I told everybody, I said, man, a shipment of books, the Quranic structure and foundation of Islamic society, Fazul Rahman, still got it. From Pakistan, one of the guys, his students, his mother or father wanted to help him stay in Islam or something. They sent a shipment to the Islamic Center. They wanted to give those books away. Of course, I loaded up and I went over to Fahim, I ain't gonna call his name. I said, man, they got got stuff over there, and I want to bring it over here and give it to the believers. Said it ain't approved by the chief yet. This is the best Islamic literature going. It was all sahih and solid. But they was in transition. Well, we was in transition. I might have been moving a little ahead of them, but they wouldn't study it. It's this stuff right here. That's in 76. 77 by that time. It was 77 by that time. Okay, the point I'm making is, if Allah want to bless you, He prepare you for the mission. We said, if you're going into a fight, He's going to train you for this fight. This stuff was the training that we needed for these past stages, because we've been dealing with all of the stuff that you see. That's enough. Tell the truth. The stuff that you see going around here and that you hear about, that's plenty, right? Tell the truth. Well, imagine the stuff that I see, the little special stuff for me. The special, the special target. Hey, I'm telling you, I'm not bragging. I was prepared for it all the time. I was prepared for it. This is what I'm prepared. Whatever you're going to do right, well, I've already seen in the Masjid everywhere what's, and I've been in that dunya was a good training. Boy, look at here. Don't let nobody tell you. I mean, the dunya that on the level that we was talking about, that was, hey. And you combine it, this blends right in with your Islam, you know what's going on. And you have to say, you look in the mirror and you say, well, if I did right in that game, that means, can you imagine you had the strongest, biggest organization, and you intimidate the whole town, but nobody will mess with you because that's who you are. So, and you don't have to hurt nobody. I told my homeboy last couple of years ago, I said, we didn't even beat nobody up, huh? He said, no, but we was ready. I said, just imagine, all the other big time dope dealers, that's all they do, is beat people and kill them and kidnap people's mama. I said, man, of course, Allah bring you out of that. Allah put you through stuff to learn it, but not to be saturated with it. That's why people could not understand why you would leave